Hello, welcome everybody to our webinar. The topic is Site App API for Easy Platform. My name is Ivo, and we also have my colleague Petar with us today as well. He will join later, explain a bit of examples and give you a bit more in-depth details. Before that, I will try to do some slides. So there's a couple of slides I have. So let's go. About us, just quickly. So I'm co-founder of Netgen. Probably you know that, but still. Petar is a senior engineer at Netgen. He also has roughly 5 years of experience working in the core team of Easy. He's also a top contributor to the Easy kernel. We are a web agency from Croatia. We are working 15 years with Easy, roughly 13 years with Easy and 15 years in total regarding web solutions, etc. And we have a lot of clients and partners across EU. A bit of history. So just roughly, very quickly, Easy Systems started working on the next generation of Easy 6-7 years ago. We were hired in 2012 to work on the public API. That was Petar was one of those people. In 2012, Easy chose Symfony, which was quite an important step to be the baseline framework. The first hybrid version of Easy 5, was released in 2012, end of 2012. Then the funny thing is that the first site API proof of concept was built by Petar for Easy roughly end of 2013. You can actually still find it. It was requested by the let's say it was planned in the architecture back then, but it was soon kind of left beside. Probably some more important things to do back then, but the general idea was to leave the public API generic and build a site-specific layer above the public API. And then the Easy Publish 5.2 was released end of 2013. We started experimenting with that, and then Easy Publish 5.3 released in mid-2014, and then we actually started building sites with that. That's what I wanted to get. So we started with a new stack basically in 2014. And we also rewritten our base code also end of 2014, and then Easy Platform 1 was released end of 2015. So just roughly, so we have quite a lot of experience with Easy Publish in general, Easy Publish Legacy. We have 4 years of experience with Easy New Stack, 5 years of experience with Symfony. We were involved a lot in the core development. We open source a lot of extensions and bundles. Whole point being that we really have a lot of experience with the whole stack. So we have something to say about that. That's why I'm also doing this webinar today. So we also did a lot of blog posting, as you might know. So one of my blog posts was in 2016 when Easy Platform came out. I had a lot of, it was quite a long blog post, but so I did just one sentence from the whole blog post summarizing. So what I wrote back then, and it's still valid today, developing sites on the new stack is a time-consuming process. If you take the vanilla Easy Platform and start building websites, you will soon learn this. There is too much work for usual content features. For example, we need 112 lines of code to do a twig extension that basically just does two things: gets content for location ID and, for example, gets related content by content ID. So these are really like real use cases from projects that we got. There's a lot of code doing very simple stuff, especially because we were used to some simpler coding in legacy. Another example is, for example, getting the parent name of a location. You need some PHP code written. It's either in a custom controller, it's either in a query controller, it's either in a twig function. So you need to do something, some PHP code injected in some way, or override something, or customize something to get the parent name of a location. That's quite a lot of work for a very simple feature. There's also one other example, or more than an example, it's more like a warning, is that considering that the new stack based on Symfony is very not, it's very strict in how it deals with errors and what an error is. So what you can have is editor adds a hidden location by accident to a relation list, which is then used, or it sends to trash some content that is related to another or whatever. This page, when it gets to this location, will actually crash the whole page. And this is not a situation where you want to avoid this situation. So you need to handle it in every part of the code on the site if you want to prevent the crashing. Okay, so speaking about this, there's many others who are trying to, at least kind of help this situation or reduce this amount of code needed for simple things. So, for example, Easy Systems is introduced eventually kind of a query controllers, which are injectable to existing controllers. So at least you only need to override the controller. It still requires some PHP code and configuration. So this is, I think it's quite useful in some specific situations. Then there is also related to multilingual sites, is introduced into the API translated properties. This is already in the kernel, it's merged. It's a kind of a partial solution. It's also imposes language configuration into a public API level, which is something that we don't like much. So for example, if you look at this code, this is much simpler than at the beginning of Easy Platform, but it still requires you to specify this parameter to the load content function to actually not worry about languages. So it's still kind of, you need to worry about the languages, at least on some level. Also, Easy is going a bit further with this. They're introducing a site access aware repository layer on top of the public API. This is still not merged, so this is something that will be available in the Easy Platform version 2. It's again injecting site access configuration into public API level, which is not something that we like. Again, it will help on multilingual sites. The code will be simpler, so the same code from before will look like this, which is great. But we already have this kind of reduced code in the site API already in this version of site API. So this kind of multilingual complexity will be solved with the Easy Platform version 2, but not exactly in the place where we like it. So again, there's a couple of more, like Calliope did some lazy loading wrapper for content and locations. It's probably very handy in custom complex use cases, but doesn't reduce amount of code that much because you're still in the PHP code to do maybe some simple things. Then Novaactive is also doing a set of Twig and PHP helpers. They are doing a children provider and stuff like that. Helpers are not a good solution, at least in our opinion. Children provider is something similar to query controllers, so it's kind of feels like a duplicating work. So for example, if you look at this code, you will see at 2 first lines, you will see these twig helpers when you want to extract the content from a content info. Then if you want to extract a parent content by content info. What about parent from a parent? Then obviously you need to do some more calls, etc. They also do some helpers like content tree functions. They also do this children provider, which you need to build and inject, etc. So in our terms, if you just want to list some children, this is just too much work. Code Rhapsody, again, and also doing something more on a symphony level. They are injecting some additional parameters to existing view controllers, etc., which is really nice thing if you want to enrich current views with some parameters or some variables, etc. Still, there's some coding needed and configuration, etc. So I probably missed something. I'm quite sure that almost everybody who is already doing some work with Easy Platform and Easy New Stack has some helpers, some bundles that help, reduce this amount of code needed. We think that to really simplify things, we need to add an additional layer. That's just like something from 4 years of experience we learned. We released Site API last year, 2016. And I read this blog post again yesterday, and I found this really great quote from Petar. So the main point is that he was involved in the product itself, and once he was out of there and starting building things with the product he helped build by him as well, he really soon realized that we need a dedicated Site API. It's just too much work in any other situation. So coming to the Site API for Easy Platform, what is it and what's the use case? Again, a bit of quick history. So we released 1.0. It was September 2016. The focus was on transparently resolving correct translations with own services and value objects. So this is something that, like I mentioned, Easy is solving as well on the public eye level, but we just needed to solve this quickly because all of our projects are multilingual, and we just needed to kind of reduce the complexity, and we built this first version of Site API focusing on these things. In 2.0, released in January this year, we added the possibility to use the default and Site API view controllers side by side, so you could actually use both at the same time. In 2.1, we released 2.1 released in August this year. It introduced filter service. I will come to that later. We also have lazy loading properties and simple content hierarchy traversal. I will show this later on. And in 2.2, released just last month, we introduced also lazy loading fields and deprecating some older stuff which is not needed because of lazy loading. And coming soon in 2.3, we'll bring simple to use get field relations or filter field relations, really handy. In 2.4, we will do even more advanced things with tags. So it will be possible to fetch objects which are tagged with the same tag with a very simple and very similar function that's to the get field relations. By the way, I think 2.3 will be released, I think, next week or something like that. So what does the Site API provide for you? So it provides, first of all, Symfony services. There is a main service, site service, which you can inject and basically start using it on your current code base. From the site service, you can also get the find service, which basically wraps the easy search service. It also offers the load service, which wraps the content service. We intentionally made different names so you can actually see in the code that these are different services. So we didn't name it in the same with the same name. And we additionally have the filter service, which is quite important because if you have Solar enabled, you might want to go directly to the database in some use cases. And with filter service, you actually do that. You just, even if Solar is enabled, you go to the database. You basically send the same location query and it will go to the database and not to Solar. We can, of course, speak about these use cases later, and there's a couple of important ones. What it also provides is a set of lazy loaded value objects. So first of all, it gives the location, which is, you know, obviously wrapping the original location, a content as well, content info, although with lazy loading, the content info is something like maybe less important. So it's still there, but it's kind of more because of the compatibility. It's not something that you need to use very often. And then we also have field. So these value objects are provided. So just to give you a quick example, Petar will show you later in more details, but for example, simple PHP coding, I will just highlight a few things like you can just get 5 children from location with one code, one line of code. You can also get siblings only of category content type in one line. You can check is empty without a twig helper. You can get to the parent name in one line, which is quite handy, or parent of parent. You can also very easily get children from content and stuff like that. So again, bypassing Solr when needed, what you can do is, instead of using find service, which is using the original easy location query, you actually can use the filter service with the same location query, and you will go directly through the database. And this works, except of course if you use full text things in the query, then it will not work, because obviously it works with Solr and not with the database. This is really handy because sometimes when you are creating the content and you need immediately to fetch the content, there is a problem if you use Solr directly, but because when you create the content in the database, it takes some time, even if it's 1 second, to index in Solr. You will not have it. So that's why we need filter service. You can also use these things in Twig very simply, just to give you just a comparison of usual things on the right side that you do today with Easy. On the left side with Site API, it's much more convenient. You don't need helpers, etc. To give you also example in a template, you see these additional properties like content type identifiers, also fields. You can iterate through the fields, check if they're empty, and stuff like that. So it just looks more natural than adding a lot of helpers. Also, what you can do is from the Twig template, you can just fetch children with offset and limit, and also content type filtering. You can fetch with this new version 2.3. You will be able to just fetch the field relation from a field related, and also filter it by the article content type. And of course, all this supports PagerFont very by default and things like that. What is quite important to understand is that all this comes also with several very important things. So the Site API takes care of translation correctly loaded. So this means that whenever you use it, depending on your configuration of the site, you will get the correct translation. It works very similar to how legacy works. And you don't need to worry about the translation at all. Lazy loading is done for value objects. This is, of course, quite important because of performance. You don't want to load the whole thing. You are basically loading the things that you are calling. It provides additional properties like, content type identifiers, field type identifiers, and stuff like that, which are very needed when you code the templates. It does make sense that you need to do additional coding to get these properties. So they are provided. And what is also coming in one of the next versions is suppressing all the hidden or trash content. This is quite important because we want to solve this problem where editors can crash the site. So we need to be able to code this in a safe way without worrying in every line, can I catch this error or not, etc. So we need to suppress this. That's why the whole point of Site API is that it worries about these things, and the content public API is a generic one. It doesn't need to worry about that. Installation, quickly, very simple, just require the bundle, enable the bundle, and you can start using it. There are two ways how you can use it. So the first thing is, again, similar to other solutions, you can inject it. Just inject the site service and use it for loading, finding, filtering, whatever. This doesn't give you the whole potential. So the other way is to replace your view controller with the Site API view controllers. But this requires that all of your PHP code in the controller and all the tweak templates are using Site API value objects. So for existing code, this will take a bit of time to replace. But then you don't need to worry about loading the Site API. The view controller of the Site API will load the appropriate value object and things like that. Just for fun, we also have these regex things. I just shown you 3. There are more for quickly replacing the default easy tweak helpers with the Site API way of doing things. So I think this will be also added to the documentation on the repo, so you can find them if you need that. Switching to full Site API. So for new projects, we would just recommend start using the full Site API approach. So basically do everything with the Site API. If for existing projects, you would need probably some time to refactor the templates and the code. What you need to do then is just enable the Site API controller. So there is one override, which you need to enable, so that actually the URL alias routes are routing to the Site API view action and not the default view action. So this is kind of a global enablement of Site API specified based on site access or site access group. But you can still use the default features whenever you need. So you can always call the default view controller. The configuration is separated, so just use it when you need it from the Site API view controller. You can always get the original value object, so inner content is always there. You can always implement more complex features by injecting, query controllers or view parameters or whatever. The other way of ways of doing complex features are done today. So you can always do that. And this is something that you would probably do in 20% of the situation where you need to code a bit more custom features. Yeah, I will now switch to Petar, who will give you an overview of how a code that is being how the code is being done in the default easy, and then just to show you how this look with the Site API. Let me quickly open and give him the remote. Just a second. Yeah. I will also mute myself.
Okay, let me share my screen first. Hi, everyone. I assume you can all see my screen now. Okay, we'll basically go through the series of before and after examples so that you can get a better feeling of what this is about. But before we get onto that, maybe I will reiterate what Ivo already said, but I just want to make a few points clear. So in these examples, you will see that Site API is much better suited for building a site than Repository API, which is the public API of the Easy Platform kernel. Assuming that somehow this means that site API is better or that repository API is not good, it will be wrong, because the purpose of the repository API was designed as a general purpose API, so it's verbose on purpose. And the problem is not that it is that way. The problem is really that we lack another layer, site API, on top of it that would make things easier for us. So it is not that repository API is bad and that it needs to be improved. Doing so would kind of ignore the whole design effort that went into building it. It is that we need a separate layer that will enable us to implement things that we need for building a website. And this is good. Layers are good. Having this separation really enables you to do things more freely than with repository API, where you have to be conservative by definition. Kind of, you don't want to bring things there. You want to keep it as simple as possible, and so on. Okay, I hope that makes that clear. And we will start with a few simple examples. So here you can see how you would load content with the repository API. So basically you need to get the content service from the repository, but you also want to ensure that you only load the content if you can show it on the site access. So to do this, you need to fetch the language configuration and to pass this to the load content method. So with repository API, you need to think about this. While with the site API, this is done transparently for you. You don't ever need to think about this. You just load the content, and if you can't render it on current site access, it will be it won't be found. It's just as simple as that. Another thing, repository, the content service load content will load the content in all languages, even though you will render only a single language. So kind of site API is also more efficient here in that manner. Okay. Another example would be loading allocation. So we'll first see how you would go about it with the repository API. You again need to fetch the language configuration, content and language service, and then you load the location by the ID. But you don't know if you can show this location on the site access. So in order to determine if you can show it, you need to load the version info, because this is what contains the language information. Then you need to determine if the version contains a language that can be shown on the site access. So this shows a little snippet of code that iterates over the language configuration and checks that the version has the correct language. To resolve a single variable, can you show it? And then you need to handle it. The point is to make clear that you really need to handle things yourself. It's not automatically done for you. With the site API, you just load the location, and everything that you saw above is transparently resolved for you. Okay, so another example would be loading locations content. You already saw some of this. Ivo went quickly over this, but let's do it again. So you get the languages, you load the location, and then you use the content ID in location to load the content in the correct translation. This is how you do it with repository API. While with the site API, the content is aggregated in the location, and you do not need to separately load it. It's already there, but it's lazy loaded. So if you don't access it, it won't be loaded. It's automatically loaded only if you access the content property. So there's no performance penalty if you don't. So it's much more simple to do that. Okay, another example is, for example, you know that with repository API you have content info. It's kind of, it contains only the metadata for the content. It does not contain fields, and it exists because the loading of fields, it can be very heavy. It can be time consuming. So in some situations, you want to go first to the content info and then determine if you need to load the content, and then only load it if you need it. So for example, to do this with the repository API, you need to load first version info. Content info is actually not enough. Because version info is what contains the language information, and then again you iterate over the language configuration and check that the version info contains the language that can be rendered, and if it does, and if then you check another condition, and then finally you load the content that you want to do something with. So something so simple is still very demanding. With the site API, you just load the content, and as we already mentioned, fields are lazy loaded. So content basically, if you don't access fields, it behaves as content info would. And if you need to access fields, it will be transparent, the fields will be transparently loaded for you, and you just proceed using it without even thinking how are you going to use the content or content info. You just use it and do your thing. Okay, now we will also show some simple content structure traversal. For example, you are rendering content and you need to show the name of the parent content, or the content of the parent location, right? So to do this with repository API, again, we are seeing this again and again, and you're using this again and again if you are doing things this way. You need to load the content, then the main location, and once you have the main location, you can load the parent location, because this is in the main location. And then you can load the parent content, and once you loaded the parent content, you can access the version info and get the name. And now how you do it with the site API, you just load the content, and then lazy loading, you traverse the content structure, and then you go from content to the main location, to the parent location of the main location, to the content and name, and everything is just in one line. And the cognitive load for the developer is just so much less, and you can work on the important stuff and not spend your time and code and bugs to do simple stuff. Okay, now we will go through checking if the field is empty. So with the repository API, you need a special helper to do this. And with the site API, this is already done for you. It's aggregated in the field object, and you can just call isEmpty on a field object, and that's it. So it's just less to think about again. Okay, so another use case, find images under content's main location. So I think this is quite an often use case, that images are created under the content, which is then maybe a gallery or something like that. So let's see how you will do this with the repository API. Again, you need to do the thing with the languages, load the content, then you load the main location, which is in the content info. And then you construct the query. You say, you specify your parent location ID, and the content type identifier, and then you find the content that you need, passing the languages that are configured for the site access. And with the site API content or the location implements a filter children method that does this for you. So you don't need to create the query manually. So this is kind of simple stuff that we think needs to be done, needs to be solved for you, so you don't have to reinvent it every time you need to use it. So it should just be there, and you should be able to do it in one line. So just call the main location of the content, and then you filter the children of this main location, limiting it to the images content type. And that's it. And by the way, this method, filter children, this will actually return a PagerFont object. So if you know a little bit how this works, you can then iterate over images like it is an array of locations, or you can use it as a PagerFont instance to build the pagination and to show the information about the total count and number of pages and so on. Okay, and now something kind of similar, finding siblings of the same content type. So you are starting from a location and you want to say find all articles on the same level, meaning under the same parent. So with the site API, you need to do this manually. Again, finding the languages, loading the location, constructing the query, and performing the search, passing the languages again, and so on. While this is already done for you as a kind of a syntax sugar method in the site API location, which you can just call and say filter siblings and limit it to the content type, and then do your thing with the siblings. By the way, I will show you the example. These methods always appear in pairs. So this is the location object in the API namespace of the site API. And you always have get children and filter children, which are really dissimilar. But this one, get children, should be used in a simple use cases, and it only provides a limit parameter and returns an array of locations. While the filter children, you can filter the result by the content type identifier. You can also specify a limit per page and the current page, and it also returns the PagerFont instance. So you will get these pairs of methods for children, for siblings, for the content locations, for, as you will see, for the field relations and so on. Okay, so let's move to another, where were we? Find siblings. All right, I think we were on the siblings, right? Okay. So now we will look into how to get to the relations. This is, by the way, not yet released. This is a feature that is coming in the version 2.3, which we hope to release next week, so quite soon. So first, we will go through how this looks with the repository API, and as you will see, it's quite involving. Again, the same thing, you find the content, then you access the field. This was recently approved, so you don't need a special helper to get the field in the correct translation. So you get the field, you get the destination content IDs. This is really the list, the ordered list of the related content IDs. and then you need to do something with it. You basically need to perform search because you need to account for permissions and also for the status of the content. So you construct your query. You say, find me all content IDs, find me on content where the content IDs are related content IDs, and limit it by the content type. Then you pass it to the search service, and you get your result back. But the problem here is that what you get back is not sorted. What is sorted is the destination content IDs, but this information is lost in search. So what you need to do is basically to use the order of the destination content IDs to sort what you got back in the search result. So this is a little snippet of code that will then do that. It just flips the related content IDs, so you get a set, and then it defines a sorter function, so you can sort related content IDs, and then basically you can continue doing what you started some 50 lines above. With the site API, when it's released next week, hopefully this will be this simple. So basically load your content, and then you just call filter field relations. You provide the field identifier, and then you provide the array of content type identifiers that you want to your relations to be filtered on, and that's it. It's one line or 2 lines at most. Okay, so you saw that we have a load service where you can load site API content and location. You saw that we also have a find and filter service. And here I just want to say again that in find and filter service, you have the full repository search API. So we didn't change anything here. You build your query as you will do it with the repository search service, and then you pass it to the find service to find content, or to find locations with the location service, with the location query. The only difference is that you do not get back these repository content and locations. You get back the site API content and site API locations with all the additional properties, lazy loading, and additional methods. Okay, now we will look into what Ivo already mentioned. It's about the filter service. And it's about the need that when you use Solr as a search engine, it's a separate system. And the data needs to be indexed in the Solr. So this does not happen immediately. And even if you find a way to call commit on the Solr to make the posted data available for search, this will not become available for search immediately. It's just another system. You will need to do some kind of sleep, some kind of wait that you ensure this, and it's just the way things work with this kind of search engine. So far, the repository really lacks what would be a filtering service or filtering engine, and that would provide search capabilities that would not be asynchronous, that would work on the database directly. We kind of already have this in the legacy search engine, which works on the top of the database. But the problem is you cannot use both at the same time. So you either use the legacy search engine or the Solr. And sometimes you need Solr. You want advanced full text capabilities, you want faceting, and so on. And in this case, when you also need your search not be affected by the asynchronous nature of indexing, you have a problem. So this is what also happened for us, and what we solved by introducing the filter service. It's basically the same as the find service. It's just that it works on top of the database, even if the Solr is configured as the search engine. So in the special use cases, when you want to ensure that when you search for something, it is found because it is on the database, which is kind of a reference, you will use the filter service. And in other use cases, you can use the find service that works on Solr, that scales better, that has better full text search, that has faceting, and so on. So there's that. And we're kind of nearing the end. We'll just go over some differences of how you use all of this in Twig. So far, we mostly looked on the PHP API, which is not, of course, available in Twig. The services are not available in Twig, but in Twig, you will get the value objects. So you can still filter children, get traverse the content structure, go to the main location, to the parent, and so on. This is all available in Twig. So let's go through some differences between how the current Easy Platform implementation works and how the site API works. So for example, rendering a field in the Easy Platform standard, it looks like this. You need to provide the content and name of the field, while with the site API, you access the field directly. And you can either do this through the dot notation or through the array notation, but it's similar. But it also means that you can iterate over fields without a special helper to get the field. You just access it like this. Also, checking if the field is empty does not require a special helper. It's more natural. You just say .empty. It calls isEmpty method. Twig is automatically shortening this, so it's much more streamlined, let's say. The image alias rendering, it's a small thing, but still, you provide the field directly and the alias identifier, while in the standard Easy Platform, you have to get the field. You also have to provide the version info. A site API, there is only one version info. It's one that's published and rendered, and the alias identifier. And that's basically it. I'm finishing with the kind of full-blown example that shows various things. For example, having a location in your Twig template, you can fetch, you can filter children. The blog post type, limited to 10 per page, access the second page, and then render the parent content name. And since this returns really a PagerFont instance, you can iterate over the children and build the list with the pagination and the information about total number and so on. And yeah, that's basically it. I think we can start with the questions now. It's been almost 50 minutes now. Yeah, just maybe to say that I don't know how this sounds to you. I guess you will tell me, but this is all stuff that you do in your daily life as a developer again and again, and it accumulates. So each of these small things, small simplifications, it really pays back.
Okay. Thanks, Petar. Let me try to just wrap this up. I'll figure out how to share my screen again. Okay. Let's share my screen. Didn't want to do that. Do you need to stop sharing your screen, maybe? Yeah, just a sec. Okay. Okay. So just a recap. So as again, site IP is a thin layer on top of easy public API. As hopefully you got that one. What is very important I think to emphasize once more is that the goal is to provide simple to use features for 80% of use cases. So, everyday things that we do on every project needs to be much faster. Of course, there's always some more complex situation where you just cannot do it. And of course, you will fall back and do it as you do it today. But I think these 80% of day-to-day users of easy, the templates and the view controllers, etc., needs to be much faster, much less code that we do today. And the conclusion regarding site API, it reduces a lot of boilerplate codes, simplifies coding and maintenance. It does require some refactoring for existing code base if you have it, but you can choose to start for a new project. So then you don't have the existing code, you can try it from scratch. It just saves time. That's the most important thing. We just it's proved every day from when we started to use it. Okay, just my final thing is use it and contribute. If you have any questions, we will gladly take them. Although we do, it's quite a long webinar anyway. So let's start. From Donat, will you share examples in the repo? Yeah, of course. There are some examples already, but we can add more. Samuel, for every beginner like me, your recommendation start immediately with site API? Yes, of course. It will save your time. Okay, and then is site API already ready for Easy Platform V2?
Installation
yeah.
and all the tests.
Yes.
And this is what we initially
it's so the tests are passing with still it's Easy Platform version 2 is in beta, but looks okay for now. What I didn't mention is that site API is for Easy Platform, so it won't work on Easy Publish 5. That's what I forgot to say, and it's quite important. Any other questions? On the chat, there is a chat feature, so feel free to ask something. Okay, I don't see anyone typing. So, okay, we will, hopefully we will manage to record this and share it. If you have any questions, of course, you can ping us on a lot of channels. Again, try it. Contribute back to it if you think you need something, and thank you for your attention. Thanks Petar, and see you soon. Cheers.